Our future lies in the past. When I was growing up in Michigan in the 50s, yes, the 50s, my small town library had a wonderful book, The Seven Wonders of the Ancient World. It had pictures of pyramids and hanging gardens. It blew my mind. And I knew then I had to become an architect. In the 70s, as a professor of architecture, I was teaching my students that our built environment, the buildings we live, work, and play in, uses more than 50% of the US energy production, resulting in more than 50% of the carbon dioxide emissions. So it's a major factor in global warming. It was then that my search for sustainable alternative architecture began. In 1990, when my practice brought me to work in New Mexico, I was amazed to find in the high desert landscape the amount of pre-Columbian, indigenous, sustainable village architecture. And yet, when I checked, none of this had ever been imaged in any way, so it remained esoteric and invisible to the public at large. I decided to do something about this, and I began making computer models of these places. And using Cinema 4D software and archaeological field data, I've constructed 150 of these places so far, and I'd like to share an animation of 2,400 frames with you now. Hawaku, an ancestral Zuni village, is the place where Europeans first contacted the Puebloan world. Ironically, Coronado scout Estevanico, a Moroccan slave, is the first outsider to contact Hawaku in 1539. As we fly into the hilltop village in virtual reality, we can see the details of the architecture just as Estevanico saw them that first day. The rooftops of clay with their square ladder doorways, the building massing nestled into the hill and creating plazas and courtyards, and the solar orientation of the massive walls. Now, Estevanico was warmly welcomed by the Hawakuans and was honored by being housed in an underground circular kiva, which we know today had been constructed centuries before the founding of Hawaku by the Chaco culture. As we fly back from the village about 600 feet, we will encounter those circular Chaco and kivas. Today, Hawaku is abandoned and has collapsed into piles of stone and broken pottery. You know, we can learn so much from the ancient indigenous civilizations of the Americas. Theirs was a language of sustainable architecture and evolved from 400 centuries or more of experiment and experience with the minute environmental conditions of this land. We can learn from them about water conservation practice, alternative sustainable building materials, how to site and orient buildings into the landscape appropriately, and how to combine the thermal properties of earthen materials with solar orientation to produce architecture independent of fossil fuels. If our own future of the built environment is to be sustainable, we should be respectfully aware of this past and of our predecessors, the countless generations of the stewards of the spirit of this land. Our future lies in the past. And a footnote. Vote, and vote only for those politicians who pledge to deal with global warming. Thank you.